Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to United vs. Everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Sean. If this is your first time here, this is the channel that's made by you guys, the UVE community. You guys power, you guys have helped it grow to nearly 2K subscribers. I think we are just a couple shy of 2K. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe. But we are here to chat about our match against Nottingham Forest on Saturday. A little earlier than I anticipated, but my day is filling up tomorrow. This is the only time I could get to do it. So here I am to talk about the match, look at Forest tactics, look at some of the team news, and of course, get your predictions for starting 11, your score predictions, and chat a little about the current United news. So we do need to start tonight, though, on a bit of a sad note. I do want to extend our thoughts and condolences and obviously remembrances of Kath Phipps, Cap's longtime servant of the club, receptionist. She did pass away today. She was an ever-present treasure at the club for 55 years, I think. She started in a couple roles, I think, switchboard operator and this and that way back when. She eventually became known as receptionist at Carrington, our training ground. And she was just the warm face, the warm embrace, the warm just presence that greeted, visitors, players, staff, coaches, everybody who came through Carrington, who came through the club, got to know and love Kath. So do extend our wishes to and prayers to her family. And we do want to take a moment to remember her because she is a legend at this club, and we lost a great one today. So rest in peace, Kath. You will be missed by everybody who interacted with you, who got the chance to just meet you. So it is sad. And so just take a moment to remember that. Hard to move on after that, right? It's hard to start with a sad note and then move on, but we are gonna move on tonight. So with something that I spoke about a little earlier in the week, but I wanted to maybe start implementing in terms of throwing out a little mini kind of scouting report and here and there throughout the videos, just to spice things up a bit. My boy Danny in the house, my ride or die here. Big up, pal. Hi, long time no see, man. Throwing out the well wishes to Kath in remembrance. Appreciate that. So Danny, like me, coincidentally, as I speak of the devil, right? Pun intended. Danny, like me, has an eye for talent, has an eye for scouting, loves watching other leagues, players, looks around for the young up-and-comers like I do. Danny, it seems like you lean more towards the South American route, and I lean more towards the European, the Belgiums, the Salzburg areas, things like that. But everybody, it all works. But today, we're going to start things off just with a quick little scouting report. So jump right in if you're all set. So let me start with somebody that I mentioned earlier, but we're mentioning tonight. So this is Konstantinos Kouliarakis. He, as you can see here on the screen, just a couple little stats. So young, left-footed, left-sided center back, recently joined Wolfsburg this summer from PAOK. Greek, so could be a nice little addition. Just turned 21, like I said. 6'2", very physically dominant, very, very good on the ball, as you can see there. His long ball, key pass stats, his through balls, tackles in the final third, so high pressing, carries into the final third. Again, very, very good on the ball. All these metrics for him are stellar. I'm talking 84th percentile for shot creating actions, 99th percentile among center backs for assists right now. Progressive carries is in the 70th percentile. Progressive passes received, 76. So he's getting high up the pitch. His successful take-ons for a center back are in the 62nd percentile. So he is very, very. He's like a younger, taller Lisandro Martinez. But he's no slouch on defending either. His blocks, his clearances, his aerials, his interceptions, his tackles, all well above average. The kid is unstoppable. He's got 2 assists already in the Bundesliga this year in just 10 matches, and this is his first year in the Bundesliga. He will get snatched up by another club, if not this summer, next summer for sure. He was very dominant. As I posted on yesterday, Hoffenheim and Wolfsburg played yesterday. It was a good match for anybody scouting because we got to see Tom Bischoff, who is a good attacking midfielder for Hoffenheim. And then obviously, if you watched, you got to see Kouliarakis. Wolfsburg ended up winning 3-0 on the night. So Kouliarakis keeping another clean sheet. But if you watch the match, he's dominant, sweeping things up, good on the ball, picking out passes, putting the ball. He suits Amorim's system to a T with the way he can pass with his left foot. I think he could come in, be a really good rotation option with Licha. We've got Delit, we've got Yoro, Mizraoui can fill in if we need to. Guys like Kukonki maybe coming. I think he could really be a good addition to the squad, especially if you've got Evans, Lindelof, and potentially even Maguire leaving. Shaw basically a sick note. Guys like him are on point. Danny, yeah, you were telling me about Malambo the other day. I was looking him up a little bit too. I did see we were linked with Malambo. Plays for Feyenoord, young midfielder, very young midfielder. Danny says, never see much of him, pal. You told me about him the other day. Yeah, he's very, very good. Very, very well rated. Bayern, who's Bayern? What's going on with Bayern? Is he linked to Bayern already? If he is, it wouldn't surprise me. But so that's your first little mini scouting report for the night. Konstantinos Kouliarakis, young Greek center back. Go look him up. Go check him out. Go watch a little bit of Wolfsburg now and then if you want to get a little bit more of an idea of what he's all about. But just wanted to switch things up a little bit with something fun like that. So anyway, we're going to jump onto the match preview. That's why we are all here, right? Sorry, just getting my slides together here. There we go. Now we're good. I'm old school, low tech. I go Google Slides to keep my notes. It's just easier for me anyway. So not to minimize some of the sad news and not to move past it too quickly, but when we're going to try to switch gears, we're going to talk a little bit about this weekend's match against Forest because it's sneaking right up on us. So on Forest, so they are above us in the table right now. I think they're 7th. They were 6th when I started doing this notes, but now they're 7th after Fulham beat Brighton and then after Spurs lost to Bournemouth. Bournemouth are doing really, really well. And honestly, Bournemouth, they pressed, they were energetic, they were all over the place. Had they just had some better finishing by guys like Ouattara or who else? Whoever else was missing some of these chances. Tavernier, like the guy, I think he used to play for Rangers. If they had some better finishing with the amount of chances they had, it could have been a lot worse game for Spurs. But it is what it is. Forest, they're in 7th. They're only 3 points above us. They do have a GD of 0, which United fans are well familiar with, 0 GD. But this is what I mean when I talk about how tight the table is right now and why people, I think, were a little too quick to freak out about us being in the bottom half of the table. Danny, yeah. This is what I was saying to Rich earlier. We need to be signing players no one hardly knows. Yeah, we do really need to start thinking about players and doing some actual scouting, Danny, is something I've been saying about United for a while. We tend to scout like some 12-year-old playing Ultimate Team who's never watched a minute of football in their lives. They just go for the best. We have different people in charge now. We have a whole team in charge. We've got guys who are very good at this. Not only are they good at scouting and building a squad, but they're good at getting good deals, not only for buying players, but selling players as well. So let's see what we can do. They did inherit a bit of a financial mess and a bit of a Frankenstein squad and they can only go up, right? There's zero structure there to begin with, so they can only go up. Anything they do is structure already. So, but I hear you on that one. I've said it. There's going to be a fine line because I agree with you. I have no problem looking for these lesser known talents because I do think 100 million you could get 3, maybe even 4 really good players that no one's really heard of for the same price as one player. But at the same time, because this is United, we do have to be thinking a little bigger than, clubs like Brighton and like the PSVs and whatnot. No disrespect. We have to be thinking a little bigger, something like that in that regard. So there's a happy medium there somewhere. We've just been doing both ends. I think Ten Hag was dreaming a little smaller with some of his signings. And I think in the past we've done just big signings for big signing's sake. But I totally hear you. Sean James McLeod, welcome to the channel, my friend. It's a cool name. I like your name, but United needs to get rid of 8 players and buy at least 6 or 7. To me, Evans, Rashford, Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof, Anthony, Eriksson, Casemiro, and potentially Xerxes if he doesn't do striker well. Yeah. You're right. Danny's going to love you because Danny is all about clearing the dead wood. He wants to come in with a chainsaw and just start chopping things, getting rid. It's like me when I go look house hunting. First thing I do when I walk into a house when I'm looking at it is look at which walls I can take a sledgehammer to and knock down and open the place up a bit. So, but yeah, welcome to the channel, man. No, I totally agree. There are some players that are going to need to go. We've spoken about that a few times on the channel, which players we'd like to see stay. We did a video a couple weeks back. I had some guests with me. It was a pretty long video, but it was a good video. Which players fit, which players don't. We're going to do another video shortly, not too soon, but soonish, where after we've seen a couple matches of Ruben Amorim's system and we've seen some of these players come back from injury and we get a better idea of who fits, who doesn't now that everyone's back, we're going to do another video on what Amorim's maybe his best starting 11 is. So be sure to keep a lookout for that. Yeah, Danny, see, I told you, Danny's right there with you, Sean. He's like, big clear out by this summer. Yeah, we do need to clear out. It's not going to be as simple because you're going to have to take a loss. And then still at the end of the day, someone's going to want to pay the wages. We pay a lot of players a lot of money. Anthony's on 200K. Like, who's going to want to pay that? But I hear you. I don't disagree. It's just not as simple as that. Sean says, need 2 defenders, one with a left foot preferred, need another quality winger like Diallo is doing, need another quality attacking mid, and 2 CDMs or CM sub to replace Ugarte and Manu when needed. Yeah, you're right there with us, man. I did a video last month on some priority positions, and I gave like 3 or 4 targets for each position, and I had like 5 positions. So, and then if you did catch the beginning of the video, we did do a little mini scouting report that I'm going to start doing every now and then. And it was a young left-footed center back playing for Wolfsburg. His name is Konstantinos Koliarakis. So when this video is done, rewind it, watch the first couple minutes, and you'll get a better idea of that. But Danny B, throwing out the welcome wagon as always. That's why we love you. Welcome to the channel, Sean. Sean says, what else? Saying Dallo, Malacia, and Bruno should be bench players to me. They can't play every game. It's interesting, there's some people who would say Dallo needs to go. I've never thought that Malacia was quite good enough, even at his best. And Malacia and Dallo are pretty much the same age, which a lot of people forget. Bruno is a little, and then again, you're welcome to your opinion. I just can't believe there's people who, and I don't think maybe you're saying he's not good enough, but Bruno is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. He's been one of our best players. He's been one of the best players in the league since he joined. So it's hard for me to justify. I can criticize him on the day. I can criticize certain aspects of his game, but at the end of the day, Bruno is who he is, and he's one of the best players. Like Luka Modric is picking him over Kevin De Bruyne. You have a good player, so I can't justify benching him. It's about finding a way to fit him in the side sometimes. Yeah, the truth is different from reality for sure. Yeah, it is. It is what it is. But thanks for jumping in, man. I appreciate the new faces. Appreciate people getting involved. If you do like what you see, subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 2K. We're a handful of subscribers away. And then when we do hit 2K, we're doing this giveaway. It is a brand new shirt. Still in the wrapping because I don't want to take it out of the wrapping for you guys. But it is a large. It is a 21-22 home shirt. And it is all for a winner of the giveaway when we get to that point. But with your help, we'll get there. So on the match, let's get back to the match. It's easier for me to get distracted this late at night. So again, the table is tight. A few good results on the bounce, and we're right back in the mix. I think we can jump up to like 6th or 7th or something with a good result tomorrow. Forest are higher up on the table, but don't let that fool you into thinking that they are as good as the other teams around them, because they're not. They have players who can hurt you when they're having a good day, yes, but if many of them are just not in great form. And as they showed against City, they're just not there yet in terms of the squad. They're punching above their weight right now, similar to Fulham. Again, people are looking at the table right now. They're freaking out. But when in your lifetime are Fulham going to finish above United? When are Bournemouth going to finish above us? I'm not trying to go a little early. I'm not trying to disrespect them. Just like we haven't played everybody in the league yet. We're going to see what happens. But on Forest, I have 2 of the same slide here. That's funny. So they've been having a bit of sort of an up and down form this season under Nuno Espirito Santos. They've managed a few surprise results against like Liverpool and Chelsea. They beat Liverpool. They held Chelsea to a 1-1 draw. But lately, they've struggled against the better sides. They lost to Newcastle. They lost to Arsenal. They lost City in their last 5 matches. They did pick up a win against Ipswich. They did pick up a win against West Ham. Like flat track bullies, right? But when they have won, though, when they've picked up 3 points, they've kept clean sheets or limited the opposition typically to just 1 goal. So they can be a bit stingy when it comes to defending and difficult to break down. In fact, until their recent match against City, where they lost 3-0, Forest defense was actually very good. And up to that point, they only conceded 13 goals, which is like the 3rd best in the league at that point. So how they're going to set up. So what you're going to see is typically they're going to set up a couple of ways. 3-4-3 maybe in attack, 4-4-2 maybe in defense, depending on where the pressure is coming from. The 4-4-2 tends to be their go-to when they're defending near their own box. They want to get numbers in and around that area, make it compact. When they move to a 3-4-3, that's where they kind of get a little bold. They create these little traps in midfield, these little triangles and diamonds to try to trap the ball. They try to cut out those passing lanes, apply pressure to win the ball back. And they're very good at it. They're very good at regaining possession in the final third. They're among the best in the league when it comes to the high press. Nuno likes to set up his side to transition quickly. They want to win that ball back and they want to start attack right away. And they're also, if they win the ball back in their own half, they are set up to move it wide, to get it forward, and to launch a counter very quickly. And they have very quick players that can do that, like Anthony Elanga. Nuno does set up his team to defend deep, but they will also press you into wide areas where they can win the ball and then hoof it up the side. That's what their goal is. So what that means is we'll want to make sure that the players that we have in those wide positions, especially in our own half, are good on the ball. Players who can move the ball, players who are a little press resistant, players who can make space for themselves. So guys like Licha, for instance, Ahmad, for instance, I think are who we're going to really want to look to in those instances. So when they do get the ball and they do start a build up, they can do this in a number of ways. So they can do this compactly, where they've got 5 players. They make a line of 5 players in midfield in front of 2 center backs. So their fullbacks move up. They've got 3 midfielders and their 2 center backs. So they can do that to boost numbers in that midfield's position, take up that half space between the midfield and the attack, and really get kind of like the way Liverpool set up against us earlier in the season. They had a line of 4 basically between our defense and our midfield, cutting off that option. They also can do this in a back 3 with a double pivot ahead of them. So they're taking the third man and they're keeping them deep, which basically widens the pitch, kind of like what Ruben Amorim wants to do, and it gives them a lot of passing options to bypass a press. They're very good at this. Composed View, welcome back, my guy. How are you? Forest will be a tough game. It's not going to be an easy game for sure. We're going through the tactics right now, and Forest, while they are doing well, again, I think they will regress to the mean eventually, but they do have a couple ways of breaking you down. They're also very good at getting the ball into the box, but they do this typically from wide positions or from deep positions. They can do this with passing or dribbling. Like I said, they're very good at getting the ball from defense to the final third very quickly. In fact, in their first 10 matches this year, they have almost the same number of carries into the box as they did all season last year. So they're improving under Nuno as well. Nuno might have found his club. Couple of people we want to watch out for. We want to watch out for Ola Aina, their right back, because he's a right back. But again, depending on how they're building up and what they're doing, he does get forward a lot and he can cause problems. He always seems to pop up in the box. He always seems to be in those positions. When something's happening for Forest, it's typically Ola Aina who's somehow popping up with something. Fullbacks are key to Nuno's system. So again, Aina is going to be one to watch. Chris Wood has like 9 goals. I think he's like 4th right now for top scorer. He did miss a clear-cut chance against City. I'm convinced that somebody slipped a brown envelope in his locker, but he is on form this season. Danilo and Sangare are still out with injuries. Ibrahim Sangare, they got him from PSV a couple of years ago. You guys, if you guys been watching the channel for a while, you know I love Ibrahim Sangare. I loved him at PSV. He was the first scouting report I ever wrote was on Ibrahim Sangare when he was at PSV, and that was like 2 years ago. Such a good player. He's one I really wanted for United personally. Danny's laughing. What are we laughing at out here? What did I make a joke? Sometimes I just say things I don't even really know. So on United, there wasn't really a presser. It was kind of a combined thing as we've been doing, mostly because we don't have much time to train. I think Amorim really is going to prioritize the training as opposed to the Are you laughing? Are you saying Sangare is a good player, or are you saying that's why you were laughing because I said that and you don't agree with me? So on our team news, Licha and Kavimenu are going to be back. They both were suspended after they pick up too many yellow cards, which is going to happen. The wood brown envelope thing. Yeah, sorry. I said that. I don't remember where I said it literally while I was watching that game yesterday, and it was like, there's no way the guy who's literally among the top scorers is going to miss that chance. But that's anybody on their day can miss that chance, I guess. Shaw is likely still going to be out. Evans and Lindelof have not. Has anyone even seen them at all this season? I haven't. So on our form, on our team news, after a bright early start to Ruben Amorim's United tenure, the Arsenal result did show us, kind of brought us back to reality and showed us that there's a lot of work yet to be done. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. Ineos have a lot of work ahead of them. Our recruitment structure has a lot of work ahead of them. We have a lot of work to do. Not saying that it's only downhill from here. I'm just saying it's just a reminder that we're not there yet. We're not anywhere close to being there yet. We are down in 13th now after today's other fixtures. Again, we could jump to 6th with a win, so it's all still wide open. And I think Ruben Amorim is going to demand a response from his players on Saturday. He's already kind of called out a couple times the fitness and things. I think a couple of them were very disappointing against Arsenal. I think several of our players just weren't moving the ball quickly enough. They weren't progressive enough with their passing for his liking. And if you watch that match again, like I mentioned in the match review, he wasn't happy. He was telling people to move the ball. He was screaming at Onana. He was screaming at these players that they need to move the ball forward. They get the ball, they look up, touch, 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 they pass it back. Like no one is making any attempts. And it's frustrating. I think a lot of these players get the ball in that situation and want to hoof it, but we have to start moving the ball on the ground as well, moving it around the out of the touch, the line, the out of bounds line, touch line. Sorry, the word's in there. Been a long day. And I think that not much has really changed for me in terms of tactics and whatnot from the Arsenal match. So I'm not going to rehash all that. That was like 2 or 3 days ago. So not much has changed. So we know what we're going to get from the squad. We know what to expect from these players. To me, right now, it's a matter of team selection. I can go in on tactics. It's going to take a little more time for the tactics again. We're already seeing it in the defense. We're already seeing it in the way we're pressing in areas. We have to come up. Come up with some better strategies and ideas in the final third. As we saw against Arsenal, we had some chances to get it up there, but we were isolated. We just didn't have any ideas really. And this is what's going to happen sometimes when the ball falls at the feet of someone like Garnacho or something in the final third. He's very young, or even Højlund, who people forget Højlund is still very young as well. So we can't put expectations on these 20, 21-year-olds that we put on like 27, 28, 29-year-olds. It's just not realistic, and therefore it's not fair. You guys get your thoughts in on the starting 11 because I'm going to throw mine up in a second here. I think Bruno needs bench this weekend. We're going to see. I think it's just hard for me to bench Bruno. I can say that because he's always fit. He just never seems like he's not super fit unless he's like hurt or something. But I hear you. It's just hard for me to know who to replace him with personally. Sean says it takes time to implement a system and a way of play. I expect some losses until the players get in the program. Yeah, it will. I think, and like Ruben Amorim has said, Ruben Amorim is not just coming in and trying new tactics. He's trying to teach these players how to play the game differently, how to read the game differently, how to think differently, basically how to football differently. And that's going to take time because they're simultaneously trying to learn a new system and forget a lot of what some of these players have worked under 4 different managers. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to take, because it takes a while, like you're saying, Sean, to learn a new system. And then most of the time, by the time the players start getting it, that manager is sacked and they have a whole new thing they've got to learn. We're trying to do that. And so there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of layers to this right now. But this is what happens with a proper rebuild. But the rebuild has to rebuild the squad too. And part of it is going to be, like you're saying, clear out some of these players that just don't fit the system. Not that they're bad. Not all of them are bad. It's just a lot of them aren't going to fit the system. Like I'm starting to think guys like Dalot, Rashford are starting to stick out like a sore thumb in this system, which is fine, but that's part of it as well. Danny says, I think he realized quickly that a lot of these players can't do it, Sean. Yeah, I don't think he's starting to realize. And this is the thing. This is why I've said many times, like, they don't get a clean slate, a lot of these players. These players have been here long enough. Amorim will have seen enough, and we've seen enough. The coaches will have seen enough. I think Jorson is still there. Wilcox, all these people have seen enough of this squad to know who's got it mentally and who doesn't. It's not about physically. It's not even about footballing ability. It's about technical, like mental stuff. They don't get a clean slate for me. They just don't. They can't, because giving them a clean slate every couple of years is why we're still stuck with a lot of them. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful or insulting. These are the facts. It just is what it is. And Sean agrees with you, Danny. And I agree too as well. Sean says, at least Amorim is sticking to his plan, not changing things because of the players. I think the players need to adapt, and those that don't fit need to leave. Yeah, he is sticking to his plan, despite what Robbie Savage is going to try to tell you. Robbie Savage is still just butthurt that we sold his son. I'm sorry, Charlie Savage. No disrespect, he wasn't United level, and he moved on. It is what it is. He's doing fine at Forest Green. Robbie Savage is still just butthurt about that, and he can't hide it. So I have my starting 11 that I'm going to throw up on the screen here for you guys. You guys start thinking about what you guys want to do. So before you call me a hypocrite or anything for my starting 11, because you guys know that one of my complaints for the Arsenal match was how much rotation we've seen from the midfield and the wide players and the attackers in the left. Like Amorim's made like a handful of changes for each match, and it's usually not the defense, it's the players up front. And I think that was one of my criticisms. Is I think it's hard for players to get used to the system. Like Sean's saying, it's going to take time. It's hard to get that time when you're only playing every other match. I don't think the players are as fragile as Amorim is kind of making it out to be. I don't think a lot of them need as much time to get fit. Like Amorim, like Ahmad can play games. Rashford can play games. Xerxes, Hoyland, these guys can play games. Now, to me, it's about who's the better player in the system, and that's who we need to stick with. That's going to be your core, and we don't have time right now. We can't use matches against Arsenal to try to train and to try to test things out and experiment and see who's going to fit or not. We can't do that. If you have players that are in form, you have players that suit the system, stick with them for now and wait till you get a little bit more breathing room, and then we can start experimenting a little bit. So my changes are going to reflect a little bit on players that are coming back from suspension, who I think is going to be the stronger 11 with just a little pinch of rust rotation. So let me just throw my starting 11 up here on the screen. Oh, let me throw this comment up here first because my guy, welcome back, RSV. How are you, my friend? Are you digging the snow? It's been crazy cold today, hasn't you guys? He can attest. He lives not that far from me. He says most of these players are literally on audition. You can't expect Amorim to make wine out of sewage water. I'm not saying he has to get more from these players. I think that he's well within his rights after all these players have gone through so many managers and that we still have like Louis van Gaal signings and Luke Shaw and whatnot. He's well within his rights to not have to even try. Like, I don't think that there isn't any demand. Now, financially, it could be a situation where he has to. And if we can't sell some of them, he's going to have to. But to me, managers don't inherit like this obligation to some of these players that didn't sign. So there's a fine line there, but I'm like, we all know who the bluffers are. We all know who can cut it and who can't. And I think by now everybody else should know as well. So this is my starting 11, as you can see. As I said earlier, I think our wide players need to be good on the ball to resist that high press and the wide press. And I think that they need to have energy to get up and down the pitch, because as Forest are going to press high, they're going to leave some space in behind. So I think Ahmad's got to start. I know he didn't start the other day, and he came on and looked very bright. I think I want to see Mazraoui pushed up a little higher. I think that we can. I think Euro came back, and in the 30, 35 minutes that he played, he looked very good, and he's ready to play. We need to just play him. Start with a strong side, and then you can make subs if we need to. I think with that high line, I think there's also going to be space for Hoyland and Rashford. Now, again, I've said before, it could be a bit redundant to have Rashford and Hoyland on the pitch at the same time. They're both very, very similar, but at the same time, if you can get a couple numbers running and getting into space, and you have more options if you need to make a long pass or something. And I do think that Garnacho, in my opinion, Garnacho shouldn't have started against Arsenal. I think Garnacho is much better coming off the bench, and I've said that in the match review. It is what it is. I worry a little bit with Hoyland because, as we saw against Arsenal, I don't want him played as this hold-up striker. I don't think that's his best attribute. I think that he can't spend 90 minutes wrestling with defenders, especially defenders who are 10 years older than him in some cases. Play him to his best abilities. If you want to play someone physical and with their back to goal, like, that's where Xerxes comes in. But I think Hoyland, to me, right now is better than Xerxes. I think that while Amorim's tactics can get around some of the press and some of the opposition, I think that the quality of the players is really what's going to make a difference sometimes. I think Dalot struggles with playing in tight spaces. We've seen him many times. He gets that ball just inside his own half on the left side, and he gives it away a lot. Either he loses in possession, he tries to play a pass and it's immediately intercepted, or he's passing it short and it's going right to an opposite player. Dallo doesn't fill me with confidence playing in those tight areas under pressure, and that's exactly where Forest are going to try to press him wide, win the ball back. He just gives the ball away too many times. They actually had chances because of this against City, and they just lack that quality. So we can't plan on them missing chances, though. So this is who I'd like to go with. Manu will be back. So I want to start Manu and Ugarte in midfield. I know we've said many times that Bruno can play as an 8, but I don't want him in a double pivot. I think that in a 4-3-3, he can definitely play an 8. Or if you're playing like a 3-5-2, he can play as one of those midfielders. But as one of two in the pivot, he doesn't offer enough to me defensively. I just don't think he does. It is what it is. And the more he plays, his legs will get tired. And as we saw against Arsenal, he just couldn't put enough behind some of those passes. He only completed 5 out of 10 long balls. A lot of them were going short. It didn't help that Arsenal were very quick to get back in defense, putting numbers back, and we were taking just a little too much time to move it. But I am starting Bruno. I am going to start Højlund and Rashford. I think that Xerxes came on against Arsenal and did not do himself any favors, in my opinion. I'm not giving up on Xerxes. He's very he had one decent game against Everton. He was very good against Everton, and he came on against Arsenal and just making a lot of mistakes for me. And so Leach will be back, De Ligt, Euro. So you guys can see that's who I'm going with. Danny says maybe play Manu ahead of Cass, to be fair. Danny threw out his starting 11. Let's see what Danny has to say here. So Danny says Onana, Martinez, De Ligt, Euro, Ahmad, Maz, Ugarte, Casemiro. So you're not starting Bruno at all, huh? I assume you're just doing that because you want to give Bruno a rest. And I can hear that to a degree. I almost thought about putting Mount on there, but Mount's only impressed me in the second half against Everton. Was it Everton? No, it was Bodo Glimt. He did not play that first half very well. Amorim must have said something to him at halftime. Must have been like, hey, you got 15 minutes to show me something. Because as soon as he came out at halftime against Bodo Glimt, he was a different player. He did not do himself any favors in the last few matches. So I think he's anonymous. It just is what it is. Danny B showing the love in the chat for everybody. I'm going to take this off the screen now. I am Leach. Welcome to the channel. He says, at this rate, I'd rather have Mount start in Rashford position. It feels like Rashford decision-making isn't good enough for the middle. I think that I agree. Rashford's decision-making is not great. I've said this many times. Rashford in some key, it's kind of like Dallo in his final ball, or Dallo was switching off defensively. There are aspects to Rashford's game, detriments to his game that he's never really improved. And decision-making in that final third, that final ball is just one of them. Now, I see, because Rashford, I think he could work in there because he did do really well when he played there recently. I think that I don't want to kind of pigeonhole him into a central position just because on paper it looks like a central position. He's going to be able to move around a little bit. Again, where I start to kind of doubt my own decision there is Rashford and Højlund redundant in the same side together? It could be. But against some opposition, if you're playing an opposition who plays a high line, for instance, someone who presses high, and you need some runners to get on the end of things, I think that could do it. I don't think Garnacho is quite there yet to be starting every match, and I don't think we don't have too many players that can play really well on those 10s. At least players that I want to take from, like Ahmad could play there, and I think he could be good there. But right now, he's pretty much our best wide midfielder, so I don't want to lose him from there. This is an interesting 11. It is an interesting 11. I think I need to start getting more to the strongest 11 that we have. And I think we're getting to a point now where we're starting to see that. My thing is I don't want to see so much rotation. We're seeing a lot of rotation from Ruben Amorim right now, and I don't really like it personally. Not calling him a flop, not Amorim out. I'm just like, we need to get a core team started, and we need to start building on that. Sean, what are we saying here? I think Amorim will soon get what his core starting 11. Hopefully, I hope he will, and I think that we need to, because the rotation every match doesn't help, especially when we're rotating like 5 or 6 players every match. I don't think the players are that fragile, like I said. Sean says, if Mount get fit, I'd say Rashford should be benched. If Mount could get fit, it's one thing, but staying fit for me is just one half of the issue with Mount. Mount needs to get himself more involved in the game. Like I listed against Arsenal, he barely had any touches. I forgot he was on the pitch in the first half because he wasn't doing anything. I can't justify spending the amount of money on Mount, prioritizing spending that money on Mount when he was going to be free, when we needed other positions, because he presses and runs after the ball a lot in the final third. If that's all he offers, I'll fly my dog to Manchester and let her run around Old Trafford pitch. She'll do the same exact thing that Mount's doing, except she'll keep the ball when she gets it. That little bastard, I can't get the ball away from her. But like we can't do that. Mount's got to do more on the ball. He's got to do more than just press. And he did really, really well. Or like I said, early in that second half against Bodo Glimt, he did really, really well. I was really impressed, but we're not seeing it consistent enough. Same with Xerxes. Xerxes did well against Everton, came on and had a stinker in his cameo against Arsenal. It would be great if Mount could stay fit. It would be great if Mount could impact the game more. It's just not happening right now. RSV says, the only thing I criticize Amorim for is benching Ahmad. I understood why he decided to start Mount, because Mount was actually great defensively. He offered work rate off the ball. Yeah, I think right now I can't justify benching Ahmad at all, personally. Ahmad is one of our best players right now. He, Mizraoui, Ugarte are probably our three best players, and De Ligt is probably in there as well. It's like Bruno. You just got to play him. You just have to. Danny B says, Mount needs to play 3 or 4 games consistently to show us something. He does, and I think that right now it's one of those things, right? Like, do you want to start with your strongest and then substitute players like Mount in, or do you want to start them because for the sake of them getting starts, and then have to try to make changes to fix anything that goes wrong? It's hard. It's a hard position to be in. I'm just trying to get our strongest 11 out there, and then we can rotate if we need to in the match. RSV says, although Mount also killed our attack and was bad going forward. Yeah. And Sean agrees with you, Danny. He needs a couple games. He needs to run games. I think a lot of people need to run games, but how can we get that when we're rotating so much? I think the players that are showing more need to start. And that's probably a big reason why I'm starting Rashford, because he had a very good game against Everton. And I think that maybe that had more to do with Xerxes kind of feeding him the ball. I don't know, but I think Højlund is better than Xerxes. I think Rashford is better starting than Garnacho, and so I'm like, we need to start them. Again, could be redundant, like starting Eriksen and Bruno I think is a little redundant, but again, this isn't me saying I'm right. This is me just putting out who I'd go with. Sean says, let's face it, they needed to sell some players and buy new ones little by little. Yeah, we've needed to do that for years. We just haven't. The Glazers and Woodward and co. thought that you could protect the player's value by renewing their contracts. They did it with Phil Jones. They did it with Anthony Martial. They did it with a lot of players, thinking that that was a better financial decision. Again, these are the people that made the most important decisions at our club for more than a decade. This is why we are where we are right now in terms of just the squad, the lack of structure, the finances, the fact that we've got to fire all these staff and cut costs and all this stuff. That's because of all what the Glazers and their team have done. It's not, Ineos didn't, like, they're having to clean it up right now. And I disagree on the child ticket price thing. I think that is not okay. You need to find a better way to do it than to raise that. So there's got to be another way to do it. But some of the other stuff, it sucks. And I feel for the people that lose their jobs. But these are the hard decisions that have to be made. Danny says, Mount doesn't show us something, I'd sell him in the summer. I don't know if we're going to be able to sell him. It might be one of those things where he goes on loan to like Aston Villa or something, and then we see what it's going to be. I could see Mount going one or two ways. He can go like a James Maddison route where he can do a good job and not be like world class, but he can do a job. Or you can go a Ross Barkley route where he's bright and then no one knows where he is anymore. Is Ross Barkley still a Luton? Where is he at now? I have no idea. Sean says, yeah, I'd say this season is to see who should go and who not. And I hope that Ineos and Amorim and his coaches are also kind of have that layer underneath all the stuff they're trying to do. They need to be keeping a mental note of all this shit and say, okay, this guy, he can't do it. Like, I don't think Eriksen hasn't really played under Amorim. I don't think, and then Eriksen's not going to be signing a new contract. It might be one of those Ander Herrera things where some of us might want him, but if it's clear that he's not going to be here, there's no obligation for the manager to play him, and we might not see him. I mean, if we can get money for Eriksen in January, same as Lindelof, we have to take it. But if we sell Eriksen, we need to get a replacement in January because they're down a midfielder. unless Mount can stay fit, which I don't anticipate happening. RSV says Xerxes is more of a victim of a bad environment. I do rate him, and I think he is talented. He does have IQ, even though he overthinks. Hoyland just plays WWE. His hold-up play and his first touch is crap. His hold-up play is crap, but he's not a hold-up striker, and that's the thing. Hoyland needs to be played to his strengths, and playing him as a hold-up striker is not his strength. He's not going to be that. He wasn't that at Atalanta. And if we play him like that, people look at him and like, he's a tall guy. He's a big dude. We'll play like that. That's not his strength. Hoyland needs to run off the shoulder of defenders. He needs to run into space, and he could be perfect fit. We saw this against Bodø/Glimt. He did very, very well because we were playing to his strengths, looking for his movement in the box, letting him run onto the balls. Xerxes did very well against Everton because Xerxes can do that role. Xerxes, to me, is like a halfway between a striker and like Fellaini. Like, just hold the ball, flick it on to someone else. He was like near perfect against Everton, but he's got to be consistent with it. Sean says, I think Rashford is done. Too many seasons playing subpar football. Rashford, it's all mental. Because if you look at his numbers over the years, Rashford's numbers have actually been getting better. He's been on a very steady incline in terms of goals, assists. For instance, Jack Grealish has never had a better season numbers-wise than in the Premier League than Rashford. And Jack Grealish cost $100 million, and Rashford was part of their academy. Rashford's numbers suffered a little bit during 21-22 because that was a dark time for us. And they suffered a little bit when we got Ronaldo in as well, simply because he wasn't getting on the end of things anymore. He was forced to create. But if you look at the numbers overall for Rashford, they go up like this very, very steadily, peaking with that 22-23 season, obviously. But I do agree that there's a chance that he could be sold because I just don't know if he fits this system right now. And I don't know. And I think if Rashford is sold, it's going to be more down because he wants to leave, because he doesn't want to have to learn and adjust and accommodate another system that doesn't play to his strengths. I think that he was very good in like an Ollie system and stuff. I think if Rashford leaves, it's going to be more due to him wanting to leave than anything. So we'll see what happens with Rashford. Many fans would be happy to see him leave right now. Sean says, if we sell Rashford, we need a good replacement. If we sell Rashford, yeah, we will need someone, but we don't need a like-for-like replacement, because if we sell Rashford, it's because his profile doesn't fit the system. We need someone who's a little more suited to the system, whether that's a really, really top-class like left midfielder or a really, really top-class like number 10 inside forward kind of player. That's who we need to replace. Villa's at Barkley's at Villa. All right, good deal. Danny, you read my mind as far as Rayon Cherki goes. I think Lyon are struggling, and they do need to sell players, and Cherki was on my list in a video a little while back. Very good player. Mastan Tuono could be a good replacement as well. Nipan could be a good replacement. A lot of good options out there. But why don't you guys let me know your score predictions for Saturday's match, because it's coming right around the corner. Get in your score predictions. Get in your starting 11s if you haven't yet. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's just who we might want to see. I'm going to go 3-1 United. I think that we will get back into the goals. I think that we will come out swinging after that result against Arsenal, which I'm still upset about. Again, it's not so much the loss. It's just the fact that it's Arsenal, and I can't stand Arsenal fans. I've never seen an Arsenal fan online or anything that has not just looked like a complete, insufferable, deluded idiot. I was watching some of Rio's channel earlier, and I love Joel Bayo. Like, he's like, no hard feelings, but the dude just is in such denial, and he's so deluded when it comes to his club. It's almost sad. It'd be funny if it wasn't so sad. Danny's predicting a 1-1 or 2-2. I'm going with the 3-1. I do think we'll win. I don't think we'll draw, but I can see why you would think that. But I think that it's going to be a bit of a slugfest. I think both teams are going to set up similar. I think that both teams have players who can hurt. I think it's going to be who can finish their chances on the night. But you guys let me know. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on real quick before I kept going here. Did you guys see this report coming from Martin Ziegler that there's going to be this new kind of movement moving forward, starting with, it's going to be trialed in the U21s, but apparently now they're going to be trialing this new rule change where referees are now going to award a corner to the opposition if a goalkeeper holds onto the ball for too long. This is under a new system being considered by the lawmakers in football. So under this proposed change, it's going to be trialed in the Premier League's under 21s. Goalkeepers are not going to be allowed to hold the ball for longer than 8 seconds. Referees are going to raise their hand and count down from 5 to 0. So what do you guys think of that new rule? That's going to be interesting. Somewhere, Mikel Arteta and his players are going to be going through a lot of tissue and a lot of lotion, thinking about the possibility of being awarded more corners. So, but I saw that come out earlier this morning. I thought that was interesting. You guys let me know if you guys saw that. Forest have been very poor. They haven't. I think they've been poor against some of the bigger sides. They've got a couple wins. They've lost against some of the bigger sides. Yes, against Arsenal and City. But again, it is Forest. They are punching above their weight, and they have been playing well. They started very, very, very strong, and they can still hurt you if you're not ready for it. But they have been not great. But not great is relative, right? We could say not great comparing it to us, but by their standards, they're above us in the table. They're doing pretty well. Chris Wood's like the 4th top goal scorer right now in the league. They have one of the best high pressing, like high ball retention in the final third stats in the league right now. They're not bad numbers wise, and they are getting better. And like Sean says, yeah, they have been poor, but they can surprise you. They can't, and that's why we love the Premier League, right? Anybody can surprise you on any given day. I do think Sean says I do think the team needs to respond, so we'll probably get a win. I do think they need to respond. If the players have a lot to answer for years. Danny says, don't like it too much BS and power for the refs. Bias will be involved. Yeah, I think that, again, remember the term last year was like, subjective decisions when it came to offsides and whatnot. And to me, that turned a really dark corner in terms of the decisions and the refereeing. I think that is getting into a very bad place. And I think that in the last few years, really since the advent of VAR, so many laws have been changed, whether it's handball, offside, all this shit has all been changed, and they're just changing too much. It doesn't need to be this much change. It's a very simple game. The laws are very simple. I don't like it. You can get into a whole discussion about appealing to like TV viewers and whatnot, since the TV money pretty much runs it, but we won't have that conversation today. Sean says, I don't know about that rule. I don't think that'll be good. It'll take the spiciness out of the game. Yeah, I don't think it should be an automatic corner. That's a little harsh. To me, that's like some of the pens. Like, I don't think a pen sometimes is warranted. I don't think it is equal to some of the fouls that occur. I think that like getting a pen, like the penalty we conceded in the Champions League a few years back when the ball bounced off Leach's thigh and hit his arm, which is not a handball, was given. Like, giving someone an automatic penalty kick for that is just not equivalent to the foul or the offense. RSV says, how long have you been supporting United, and who is your favorite players and your best memory during the Ferguson year? Oh, wow. How long have I been supporting United? How much time you got? Since, I'm trying to remember years now. It probably would have been 92, 93, 94-ish. My memory's getting hazy because that was a long time ago, because I'm 39 now, so that was a long time ago. So I grew up playing. I started playing when I was like 5, played a lot of little club soccer, a little bit of travel through middle school and whatnot. And then I got my first jersey because my dad used to travel a lot for work, and he brought me back a jersey. You can't see it. It's up here, but it is a Cantona jersey. It's the black one from the 93 season. That was my first one, and I still have it. So it's hard to say as an American, right? Because we didn't have a lot of access to it until like the mid 2000s, just with satellites. There was no streaming. There was nothing like that. It was like, growing up, it was like I had to find the VHS tapes, or I had to, as I got to like high school, it was like I had to know someone who was really rich and had like satellite, who had all these channels and stuff. But since then, since the early 90s, I would say, and then since then it's just been growing. But my best memory during the Ferguson years, of course, the treble was an excellent memory. I had to watch that a little later on like VHS tapes and but then we got into like, 07, 08 when we had Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo. That was just some great football to watch. I enjoyed watching that. It's hard to pick. The Champions League, of course, I think the Champions League probably for me means a lot in the 08, because that was the one I got to actually watch, and didn't have to watch till later on and see. It was like I could actually watch it happen. So that was pretty good. But you let me know what some of your favorite memories are. Nice little trip down memory lane there, right? Thanks, RSV. Danny B, the delay throw-in yellow card last season is a good example of why it won't work. I think there's a lot of changes that keep happening that I'm not on board with, and it's not the changes themselves. I'm just tired of the changes. I'm tired of changing the rules. I just don't think it needs to. There's a reason we love this sport is because it largely has been unchanged for a while. There have been a few changes, like the back pass law and stuff have been changed, but I think that it largely is very pure. I love that it's 45 minutes nonstop. I love that there's not many commercials. I love that halftime is only 15 minutes. I can set my whole day around watching a match for 2 hours, and that's it. I can't watch the NFL. I can't watch really any other sport now because of how much commercials, how much stoppage there is. And the late throwing, yeah, there's a lot. I don't see the necessary. I don't really like, for instance, kicking a ball away, like the Arsenal stuff. Like I get it, it's the law, but I'm like, is it really like justify a yellow card? Taking your shirt off when you score a goal. That was my vote last year when we did the awards show. If you guys remember that, when Dylan was here, we did the awards show, and one of the awards was worst refereeing decision. That was my vote. Was when Amad Diallo scored the winner against Liverpool and got yellow card and sent off for getting it, because it was second yellow card for taking his shirt off. I think it's a dumb law. I really do. Showing a yellow card to the ref is a dumb law. Going like this and getting a yellow card to show VA, that's a dumb. Like the refs they're trying to like make themselves the most powerful person on the pitch all the time. And they're like, I don't like and that's the thing. It's like, it's not, they don't always do it. And that's the problem, is the inconsistency. One ref is going to be a bit of a drama queen and have a little bit of a Napoleon complex, and someone's going to wave a card at him and he's going to give him a yellow for doing that, but the next ref might not. And it's just guys like Micah Oliver and stuff, they just want to be the star of the show. And I think that it's really getting on my nerves. Sean says, and I agree with Danny B, too much power to the refs, and that will influence results greatly. Yeah, we don't need the refs having so much power. Personally, they have power. Their job is to not be in charge. Their job is to manage the game, is to keep 11 men on each side on the pitch, and it's just to keep the game going. Like it doesn't need to be that complicated. Their job is not to be the most powerful person. It's not a job for dictators and tyrants. And sounds like you guys are agreeing with each other. Oops, sorry. Sean says, new rules have to make sense, not break what's already established well in the game. And the thing is like, they're bringing rules, and then you're kind of stuck with it, right? You can't like undo it. It's just not fair. We've seen, like, it's what bugs me about VAR. Is that it's not like, if you look at like domestic cup competitions, there's not VAR at every stadium. Not every stadium has the finances and the infrastructure, and so you have some games in the FA Cup where there's VAR, and then there's some games there's not. And to me, that's just not fair. Some games, some grounds have the video equipment to have multiple angles when you're looking if someone went out of bounds, and some don't. And so you get one shot at one ground, or you get 20 different shots at another ground. And it's like, this impacts things. This could, for some of these lower league clubs, you get like someone like an Oldham or a Tranmere Rovers or something. And that's the difference between being, qualifying for the next round or not, because of subjective decisions or a lack of VAR or whatnot when they were hard done by. Like, that is a lot to these kind of clubs. And those are the kind of clubs that make me love watching the domestic cups. Like, I don't like that people don't rate the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. They're great competitions, and I think they're really great to break up some of the season too. Sean says, and that to me, that breaks the game. Yeah, it does. Yeah, Danny, early 90s. Yeah, early 90s was great. It was awesome. Darksby says Fox Sports years were all right from mid 2000s onwards up until 2013 when NBC took over the broadcasting rights. Yeah, I remember the Fox Sports years. I was in college, so it was hard to get some of those games. I had to go to like B-dubs or something sometimes, or if I was at like a girlfriend's or a friend's house or something, because my girlfriend grew up wealthy, so they had at the time had a lot of the satellite and everything. So that was when I remember when HD first came out, and it was like, what? I can see people who have facial features and whatnot. Yeah, the Fox broadcast was terrible. Fox Broadcasting, they still do like the international matches, and I have the app, and the app is constantly crashing on the Xbox. Some of the streaming apps, they just rushed them out. They're not that great. Lexi Lawless, yeah, some of the, like, watching Landon Donovan during like the World Cup, he was not great in punditry. He was not good at all. And it still boggles my mind that it's not surprising, but it's still so funny to me that there are English pundits who still go on and on about like Kieran Trippier, like he's like and cite his free kick in the World Cup from like 4 years ago, and I'm like, guys, that was like 5 years ago. Let's calm down about Kieran Trippier's free kick. RSV says, for me, obviously the '08 UCL final. I'm 24, so I only witnessed like the second half, last quarter of Fergie's success. Yeah, there's a lot to Fergie's success. Like if you caught a lot of those, 97, 98, 99, especially that Champions League run, that comeback against Juventus, missing Roy Keane and Paul Scholes in the final because they were suspended. Like the things we did in the late 90s were nothing short of just amazing. And that's why there's always that debate, who would win the 99 team or the '08 side. Like it's hard to have an answer. And I think it's just, it might come down to age. It might come down to what people value in their club. Michael Llorente, what's up? Refs and nons. Oh no. Which one are you talking about? Uh-oh. Michael Llorente says FA Cup away in the early round are meant proper football grounds. Yeah, I do love some of the lower league grounds. When I went the first time I went a couple of years back, we took my buddy and we took a trip over to Crewe because Crewe Alexandra were playing Salford, so we got tickets and jumped on a train and head over there and went to that ground. That was fun. I loved it. The grounds are like the stadium is like 40 yards from the train station. It was beautiful. Walk over. The lounge for the away fans was excellent. They put us up really nicely. And of course, the class of '92 owns Salford. So Giggsy, Nicky Butt, and Alex Bruce, who they were with, were at that match. And they were like 5-6 rows ahead of me at the stadium, ahead of me in the seats. So it was pretty cool. Giggsy is one of my favorite players. If you can't tell, I got a jersey right here. But yeah, welcome to the channel, Michael. It's good to see some new faces. Everybody getting involved. We are on the road to 2K. If you guys haven't seen that yet. And we are going to be doing a giveaway when we get there. And it will be this new shirt. It is a 21-22. It is a large, the fan version, but it is brand new. I kept it in the wrapping so you guys can have it brand new. But that will be going out to the giveaway as a thank you for you guys helping the channel grow. Super blessed to be able to do this and just get to know each and every one of you guys. We're just wrapping up right now. Everybody getting your score predictions for the match tomorrow. Danny's throwing out a score draw. I threw a 3-1 win. I think the players in Amorim are going to want to respond. Uchechi Gloria, is that how I say your name? Let me know if that's wrong. Nottingham Forest must be beaten by United. I don't see United accepting a draw for me. Looking at the players, it wouldn't be surprising, but at the same time, like we have to start putting together results. We can't not, like, especially right now with how tight the table is. Like I said, a win could put us into 6th tomorrow with our goal differential. We could go above Forest, and we're running out of time as the season goes on eventually the table is going to spread out. And like the top 6-7 places are going to get more and more spread out from the places below them. And we're going to run out of time to make up that ground. We're really fortunate right now that a couple good results for us and a couple of other results going our way can put us right back in top. And if we can sustain that, we could be sitting just fine for now. But I think that from what we've seen from these players, it's just not, it's not good. What's your top away group? Help me understand what that means. Uchechi, welcome to the channel. Yeah, I'll be going back. My buddy Justin, who was on the channel for one of my streams, we're going back mid-January, so we're going to the Brighton match and the Southampton match at Old Trafford. But we also got tickets to go watch the Academy play. They're playing Aston Villa's Academy, and we grabbed some Salford tickets as well. We're going to go to Salford City at the Peninsula Stadium to go check them out as well. So that would be sorry. So far, the only away ground I've been to, Michael, he was specifying, the only away ground I've been to is Crews. So I can't speak in any other way. I am going to Salford this January, so I'll let you know how that goes. We did decide to splurge and get the hospitality, so that will be fun. So that could clinch it for me, but the Crew, I think just the hospitality we were shown at Crew, like, that was excellent. Like everybody was friendly. We were chatting with people. They didn't care if we were there supporting Salford. It was great to watch Ethan Galbraith, who was an academy player. He was on loan at Salford. He played. It was really cool to see that. But Uchechi says, let's keep the Arsenal loss aside and move on. For me, the future is bright because United football has direction with Ruben. Yeah, the future is bright. I think that not only is it bright because we're in a really proper rebuild. I've spoken many times when Amorim was appointed. Like, it does feel like Ineos are really taking this seriously. And this appointment And this rebuild feels differently at its core. It feels like a proper rebuild. And not only that, but the future looks bright. Like if you guys were here the other day, I did a live watch along for the Academy match. If you guys have ever watched any of the Academy this season, it's the best I've seen the Academy since the class of '92 came through. And quite frankly, these aside from those 5-6 players, this Academy right now is probably got more talent in numbers. Guys like Ennis, Notato, Obi Martin, Kukanki, Ibrahimov, Dan Gore is back from injury, Amas. These guys, Fletcher's, like I could keep going on and on and on. Kamasin, very, very good players in the academy right now. And that's why the future is looking brighter and brighter. RSV, have you ever met Rich in England? I have not. I've just started to get to know Rich like the last couple months or so. He runs United TV, another fan channel, but maybe I will message him. I don't even know where he lives, so maybe he and I can, if he lives in Manchester and nearby, maybe he and I can link up, grab a drink and chat. That would be good times. The old Upton Park for me, all nice. Upton Park would be fun. I do want to try to see. Does anyone know if the Cliff does any sort of tours or anything? Because I would love to get over to the Cliff to check that out. Peninsula is ace. Under 21s play there at times. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, when we saw Salford, they were at Crewe, so it wasn't Salford Stadium, but it would be nice. Hopefully, we get to meet somebody. Well, if we're there for hospitality, I know the Nevilles hang out there sometimes when Garrett or Phil's in the U.S., but I've seen Roy Keane pop up, Nicky Butt pop up. Obviously, that would be cool. So I'm not usually. I'm still like I'm not a picture person. I'm not really a selfie person. So it's going to be interesting for me with the channel to switch gears in that regard. Like I'm still kicking myself when we were at Salford for the Crewe game that I didn't try to get a picture with Giggsy because he's one of my favorites. It's just that's not my natural thing. I've never been like a photogenic kind of person. So I'm not really. And I'm older. I'm older than like the selfie generation. So it just doesn't occur to me to do that kind of stuff. Newcastle away ground is nice, says RSV, and the city is also very underrated. Oh, nice. Yeah, the closest I've been to Newcastle is watching the Goal movie, which is classic. That's classic footy if you guys want to get cheesy. Michael Rente, Finn from the Academy is the homie. Oh, right on. Good deal. Uchechi Gloria, please, broadcaster. I don't know your name, mate. So sorry about my request. No, I'm Sean, man. My name is Sean. I'm just been doing the channel since April, I think, is when my first video came out, and that was a long time ago. So to see it grow, it's been a blast. I've been super thrilled to see how it's been growing, and it's all because of you guys. Like the banner for the channel says, fan opinion always first. So RSV, it's always great seeing knowledgeable football fans like you. I just can't stand Mark Grobridge, AFTV, those type of channels. I mean, whether or not I'm knowledgeable, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. Whether or not I'm knowledgeable, that's completely up to you. I probably spend too much time watching football. You guys can ask my wife. I'll let her tell you if that's true or not. I enjoy chatting about it, and I just wanted to be able to do that. Like the kind of conversations I have with you guys right now, these are the kind of conversations I have through text or when I'm watching games with people or on the phone with people that I know. It's good to be able to, I just like doing this. So RSV though, if you're not doing anything on Saturday, you should come out to Loaded Dice for a match. We're going to be there with the Detroit Red Devils crew, man. It'd be good to meet up. Michael says, I went to the Cliff in October. Nice. That's awesome. Hospo's Prawn Sandwich Brigade. Oh, are you Roy Keane in disguise? Muchachi Glory. Garnacho is becoming a finished product for me. He's playing for Man United. United is never try your luck kind of club. He has to play for the badge. Keep age aside. The world has evolved. Yeah, Garnacho's definitely got promise, right? He's definitely got some talent. I think Garnacho, he's young, and so he's still raw, and I think a lot of people forget that. I think with good coaching and with a humility, and I think the most important skill you can have as a player is being teachable and willing to learn, not just saying, well, I'm this and I believe the hype and this and I'm just going to do this kind of stuff. I think you have to be teachable. I think you have to be humble enough to let yourself be molded by someone else and to learn what parts of maybe your profile and your game maybe need to take a back seat and what parts of your game you need to improve upon and work harder at. And I think Garnacho will get there. He's still young, so his decision-making at times is suspect. He can be inconsistent. It is what it is. He'll get there, but he's getting there. Yeah, McAllister is a baller, Michael. Nice. Uchechi says Rashi is more of a threat when played as a 9 than Hoyland. Rashi has pace and Hoyland is taking hold of the ball in the final third too many times. So bad for a proper counting tagging football. I think you might have an unpopular opinion with some of the people on the channel because I think I rate Hoyland more as a striker. Rashford, to me, he's not a striker. I think Rashford can score strikers' goals, but I don't see him as a striker. I don't even see Rashford as a winger, honestly. He's an inside forward. He likes to get the ball on the left side. He likes to cut in with his right. And he's getting to an age now. He's about, 27 now, where Rashford's going to have to make a choice. Is he going to want to adjust his game to suit the system, or is he going to want to just say, like, this is probably going to be my last contract. Let me go someplace like a PSG, like a Bayern, or maybe in the Saudi league. I don't know, where they play the kind of football I want to play, and I don't have to keep adjusting. Because Rashford's also had to adjust his game for many different managers, so it is what it is. But like Danny says, patience is what we need for Garnacho. He's been overplayed and needs competition. Yeah, Garnacho shouldn't be starting as many matches as he has. Manu should not have started as many matches last season, personally. They're both raw. They're both young. We don't want to burn them out. We saw what happened to Rooney. Rooney was probably one of the best players I've ever seen, but by the time the guy hit his late 20s, he's already put the amount of miles on his legs that a lot of players don't do until they're like their mid-30s, because it's one of the things with being so good at such a young age. Like, you look at someone like Mbappe, even someone like Hoyland, they might burn out very, very quickly unless they take care of themselves like Cristiano Ronaldo did. But I hear you. He is raw. He will need some time. Uchechi says, say Garnacho is raw and too young. Please, how old Ahmad and who's Kabi Manu? And let's talk about Yamal. Yeah, I mean, they're all good. Yamal, I think, is better than Garnacho. Kabi's a different position, but we've just said Kabi is probably starting a little too much too. Ahmad's not as young, but I think Ahmad, for me, is probably a little better than Garnacho is, but he's also older. And so we're going to see, not every age isn't an equalizer. Not every 20-year-old is the same level. That's like saying like every striker at 20 needs to be as good as Erling Haaland was at 20. That's just not the case. When we signed Haaland and Hoyland was getting, beaten down by the press compared to Haaland, I did a comparison. I think this was when I was working with StrettyNews.com. I did an article for them at the time, and I basically broke down what Hoyland was doing at his age versus what other past strikers were doing at that age. Guys like Thierry Henry, guys like Harry Kane, they weren't as good as Hoyland was at the age that Hoyland was when we signed him as Hoyland was, if that makes sense. And so age is relative, and it's getting difficult. Like, we don't want to compare every striker to Erling Haaland at his age, because Erling Haaland is a freak. That's like saying like you're a shit footballer at playing right wing if you're not as good as Lionel Messi. Well, no one's as good as Lionel Messi, so it's an unfair comparison, right? Then he says, sell Rashford, sell him while he still has some value. I think that this is probably the last season we're going to be able to get max value for Rashford, but it's all up to Rashford. Rashford has to perform. He can't just pop up every 4 or 5 games with a goal and then that's it. He's got to do more. He's got to show it consistently. But you and I are on the same page, Danny. Chechi says Rash should be better when adjusting to a 9. Major League's finishing should change and improve too. We'll see. I don't know if we're going to play him as a 9. I think we only played him as a 9 for that one match because Hoyland was coming back from international duty and he wasn't quite fit. I think Rashford's probably going to have to be playing in one of those 10s. But I think that the profile that Rashford is, and again, this is why I say don't get bogged down too much with position on paper, because what they actually play is not always going to be the same. He'll line up maybe as one of the 10s, but it's going to be a little bit more of a forward role in that regard. He's going to be allowed to drift wide to pick up the ball. He's going to be allowed to turn inward and see where the play is going. I think it's not just going to be, I get the ball in this channel and I have to create. I don't think that's going to be as kind of strict in that regard. Uchechi says, Mr. Sean, I love your channel. Big up, sir. I appreciate it. I always love seeing new faces. I love the support. Really, it's you guys that make the channel what it is. I'm just here to kind of throw the comments up there and let you guys keep the conversation going. I'm happy to sit here all night as long as the conversation goes. I will have to go feed my dogs here shortly, though. But I do appreciate it. Thank you. Big up. Michael says, been watching Garner since before he had the Nashers. He continues to improve. He does continue to improve. He was a huge deal. Obviously, we brought him from Atletico Madrid. Big deal in the youth. Big part of that FA Youth Cup. Obviously, Ten Hag saw him something in, and we brought him in the team, and he started brightly. Obviously, if you guys haven't gone over to the Puskas website, the voting is open. Garnacho's goal against Everton last season is up for voting right now for the Puskas. So go ahead and vote for that if you haven't yet. Try to get him win. Try to get the star boy some awards here. Uchechi says, Man United is a massive club and should not keep players out of pity for me. Yeah, on that we definitely agree. I think that I think sometimes we can try to force some of the academy products into the first team because we do have the record, and I love the record. I'm very proud of the record, but not every player that comes to the academy is a Beckham. Not every player that comes to the academy is a Scholes or a Gary Neville. Some of them just aren't good enough. It doesn't mean they're crap. You have to be in like a tiny, minuscule percentage to even make it to this level as a youth player. It's incredibly hard to break into the first team. And so it's incredibly hard to play in the Premier League. So just because Anthony Langa we sold him doesn't mean he's a crap footballer. He just wasn't the level we want. So he's doing great at Forest. Let him keep doing great at Forest. Heath Chong and Luton and all these guys. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that players out of pity shouldn't be kept. I do agree with you in that regard. I know some people are not too happy that we sold McTominay. Somewhere my buddy Justin's still crying about that. Sorry, Justin. Danny B says, Uchechi, stay tuned in for the jersey giveaway. Or is it going to be over the weekend? Are we going to hit the numbers over the weekend? Is that what's going to happen? I hope so. I haven't even looked at the numbers, but we'll see. We're not that far away from 2K, y'all. Rashford is not a 9, says Composed View. More especially in RA's system. He can't pass, dribble, create space, lacks awareness, feeble-minded. I don't know what his mindset, so my apologies. Lacks grit. Yeah, I do think for Rashford it is a mentality thing. There's not much resilience there. I think that Rashford, to me, needs a lot of things to be. I think Rashford needs a lot of things to be lined up to suit him. Not that he's selfish, but I think that he thrives in a system that basically suits all of his characteristics. A system that's basically made to get the best out of him, and when it's not, it's really difficult for him. Michael Llorente, I was in the way end at Goodison for that goal. Absolute limbs. Nice, man. That's awesome. Oh, I would have killed to be there for that. That was such a good goal. And it was a good cross from Dow. It was a little behind, but it was still did what it needed to do. But that was I wish I would have paid so much money to be at the FA Cup quarterfinal against Liverpool. That was probably my favorite match of last year was the FA Cup quarterfinal. Proper cup tie, that proper rivalry match. Just the match itself, going into extra added times. I thought we were going to pens, and then boom, Ahmad pops up, fights like he always does, gets that ball forward. Like that was such a good match. One of my favorite matches I've seen us play in a very long time. Right up there with like that match against PSG in the Champions League where Rashford put away that pen. That was Rashford's first pen that he ever took for us in the first team, and he put that away against Buffon. 100% Composed View. Yeah, you guys are agreeing about Rashford. Some buzz, I say, Danny. Yeah, man, that's incredible. Man, I'm jealous. Composed View says he's not even the best inside forward and winger in Man United, and that's saying a lot. Rashford, he had a really good season 22-23. He signed that contract, and I can't speculate as to what's going on in his head exactly, but it kind of declined a little bit since. Uchechi says, please, Arsenal set pieces coach is really doing something great when it comes to corners. And if you guys watch my match reaction to Arsenal, I think I would argue that the corners that they take, yes, they score a lot. They're leading the league since the beginning of last season when it comes to corners scored, but they're not clever personally. They push, they pull, they crowd the keeper. They put a lot of bodies in that area, so you really don't do anything, and then they get some flicked on headers, and it's effective. I would not call it like clever person. I wouldn't call it tactical. If by tactical you just mean just be a migrating mosh pit in and around the penalty area, but they are effective. I'll give you that. I can't. It's hard for me to praise Arsenal at all personally. And on that FA Cup quarterfinal, Danny says that game go down in history. Some FA Cup tie. That was one of the best matches I've seen in a while. But on that note, I'm going to end it there for the night. I do appreciate everybody getting involved. It's such a good chat tonight. I know we weren't typically going to go live tonight with the preview, but just scheduling wise, it worked for me. But get your thoughts in on the starting 11 and the store predictions. If you weren't able to catch the live, leave a comment. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are on that road to 2K, and we will do that giveaway when we get there because I love you guys for making the channel what it is. I want to show my appreciation. Come back Sunday for the match reaction to the Forest match. We'll dive into that. And if you're up early on Saturday too, the Academy plays early Saturday morning. It's like 6:30 a.m. my time. I'll do a couple quick chats here before I go, but I will need to go here. Rashford isn't even elite enough to have a system built around him. He only has pace and can score. His scoring technique is not broad. He scores the same type of goals, and that's average. I mean, Rashford probably could stand to add a little bit more strings to his bow over the years. He just hasn't. And I will defend him to agree that having so many different managers and so many different systems doesn't help. Statistically, like I show you in this book back here, Edge by Ben Littleton, that does negatively impact individual player development, having a high turnover, but that also doesn't excuse Rashford from not developing in some ways. So it is what it is. Danny B says they frustrate and confuse the man marking. Yeah, they just kind of all over the place. There's a lot of movement, so I'll give them that. You're right. I'll concede that. Tara, yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys all. Sean says subbed. I appreciate that, you guys. Oh, and before we go, Spurs going to Spurs. Don't forget that. So take it easy, everyone. Thank you for stopping by tonight. I really do appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your Friday. I will see you guys Sunday for that match, barring any major news tomorrow. But until then, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you guys again. Later.